Hello, Philadelphia Rebels fans, and welcome back to our bi-weekly coaches show alongside the head coach, of course, of the Philadelphia Rebels, Justin Hale. I'm your play-by-play voice, Andrew McGuinness. Coach, obviously, big milestone in the calendar year this past week with Thanksgiving. Happy belated to you. How was the celebration?
It was good. We were able to go back, see some family, friends, get kind of mentally recharged away from the rink a little bit. Still did, scouting, recruiting stuff remotely, but was able to kind of get a refresher around friends and family and ready to get back at it now.
Yeah, obviously it's kind of the point of the year. I think everyone needs a bit of a reset almost at the halfway mark, and obviously I'm sure it was extra well-timed for you guys, obviously coming off a tough series last weekend at New Hampshire. A couple games where you had pretty big multi-goal leads early in that game, especially the first one, you're up 3-0, and going into that third period and weren't able to come out with a victory in either game. And we've talked about some of the common threads that have led to some of the disappointments so far that have happened this season. Did you see those things reoccurring in those two third periods?
Well, I would say it is that time of year for injuries, illness, all those things as well. We went in the weekend missing 3 of our 8D, so we were shorthanded on the back end. Everybody goes through those injuries and illness, so it's not an excuse, but it was also a little bit of a reality of the weekend. I thought the guys that were in the lineup did a tremendous job filling in and stepping up and taking advantage of their opportunity. As far as the games go, we've talked a lot. Our first period has kind of been the issue. Those games we seem to figure it out, where we were able to build leads in the first period. We were able to make it 3-0. We were able to make it 2-0 or 2-1, 3-2. So it's more a matter of having to figure out how to close games out. And in that sense, it does come back to some of those issues of the brilliant basics, the details that we talk about, that we harp on in practice, whether it's reporting and stopping in coverage, whether it's picking up a stick or keeping body position for a box out, all critical details that stack up and matter when you're trying to maintain a lead. So fortunate to have gotten the lead, but now we have to learn to win those games and close those out.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the first period woes that have plagued you for most of the season. Do you think maybe there was almost kind of a letdown effect where first periods have been kind of the weakness for you guys this year, and then you figure that out, so the team thinks, all right, yes, we've got the weak point now, we're going to be able to really bring this one home, and then maybe they let up a little bit, and that's what leads to the letdown late in games?
I don't think it's an intentional letdown, but there is some of those lapses. We get a big goal, or we go up by a couple goals, and it's that one shift or that one decision that we make that it might not feel like in the moment is going to make a big impact, but it ends up leading to maybe a D-zone shift, or ends up leading to a 2-on-1 against. And so, yeah, some of those small things where it can just be one shift or one decision can kind of shift the momentum. And so that's something that we've tried to go back and now teach and learn from, and we just have to make sure that moving forward it's not a recurring theme after the past weekend.
Yeah, and you talked about it as well too, with the shorthandedness, especially on the back end for you. As a coach, how does that impact how you plan out your game plan, how you adjust things during the game, even practice schedule, all that stuff? How does that impact your flow of a game week?
It comes into play when the strategy for sure. We adjusted a little bit our forecheck from night 1 to night 2. We weren't sure that we were going to have the legs, back to back, and so we kind of went a little bit more passive on Saturday. And I thought there were certain benefits to that, like I mentioned, preserving some energy from our defensemen, but I did think that maybe put us on our heels a little bit more than we wanted to be at the same time.
Yeah, we've also we've talked about some of the struggles that have happened for you guys in the first periods. Another common point this year has been the struggles on the road. Obviously lost 3 straight road games going back to the previous series against New Jersey. In those 3 losses, was it again the same issues that kept coming up, or was it new things that led to those defeats in those games?
I would say the New Hampshire weekend was kind of encapsulated by the same issues. The New Jersey weekend I thought was more of things snowballed or things, once it got away from us, we went down 2-1 or 3-1, it kind of snowballed away from us. Whereas New Hampshire, we've taken strides, we've grown in certain areas as a team, as indicated by those first 2 periods, both games. So I think New Hampshire was kind of a different animal in itself, and you give New Hampshire credit. They've won, I think at this point, 7 games in a row, so they're starting to hit their stride. We're hoping to do the same moving forward, and learning to close out games like that is hopefully a big piece for us, to get on a run ourselves.
Yeah, and you mentioned the great starts to both of those games too. Obviously as a coach, and I'm sure the team as well, no one likes to lose, of course, but how as a coach, do you view the good and the bad and balancing that sort of stuff too? What do you tell the team? Are you trying to emphasize hey, obviously we lost the game, that wasn't good, but we want to make sure we take away the positives from it, or is it just you got to focus on the result at hand, and that some of those positives get swept under the rug because you wind up losing the game in the end?
You nail it. It's the magic of coaching. I think it's trying to find the right balance. We're for sure here to be competitive and to win games. That's first and foremost. But you look at every loss is an opportunity to learn and grow. And so again, it's finding the right balance in the messaging to our team. We feel like with their division this year, one good weekend can get you out of it, but then one good weekend get you right back into it. So I don't think all is lost by any stretch of the imagination. And so as a group, we've continued to just talk about we have to continue learning. We can't make this a recurring theme as far as slow starts or as far as losing a lead. That's not sustainable. But if we can take steps in those areas collectively, that's where the growth can happen. That's where the learning happens, and then the results hopefully are more wins here down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely a lot of hockey still to go, of course, and a big series coming up this weekend back at Holiday Ice Arena against the Maine Nordiques. We'll review that in a moment, but it's a goalie week on this week's show, so we'll get ready to speak with Owen Crudale and Anthony Sciere, who man the pipes for your Rebels. Rebels fans back here alongside Philadelphia Rebels goaltender Owen Crudale. Owen, thanks so much for joining us this week. Glad to have you.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so obviously, you were with the Rebels last season. Of course, this is your second year with the team. What were your goals as you were starting to go through your off-season training? What were your goals coming into this season, and how have you been progressing towards them over the first few months?
I mean, basically my only goal this season is just to get the team as many wins as possible. I feel like that's the goal. But, I mean, if getting committed is a part of it, that's awesome. But just help the team win,
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've obviously had your highs and lows, just like any player has been so far this season. Certainly some games where you've been fantastic and stolen the show. When you've watched back those games and then you've gone through the film and that sort of stuff too, do you see anything specific that you've been able to do in those games where you've really stood out that you're hoping to maybe apply on a bit more consistent basis?
I feel like this season I've been able to play the puck a lot better, and also just control rebounds and whatnot, just have the puck stick to me, not have a bad rebound that leads to a goal or whatnot. Just slowing the play down helps a lot,
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure it also helps a lot to work with other goaltenders and that sort of stuff too. Obviously, last couple of weeks it's been a 3 goalie rotation between you, Bo Lane, and Anthony Sciere, who we'll talk to in a little bit. What's it been like working with those 2 guys throughout this season over these last couple of weeks, and how has that impacted things for you?
I mean, I honestly like it because I get to see what everybody needs to work on and whatnot, and I can take bits and pieces of that and put it into my game. So I find it kind of beneficial. But.
Yeah, and obviously you were in that kind of new kid on the block position yourself last year, of course, and also you making the big transition coming over from California to the Philadelphia area. Obviously, there are a lot of guys who are making that transition, that transition for the first time this year as first-year Rebels coming from out of state. Have you been talking with some of those guys about getting adjusted to the area and being able to help them in more of a leadership role in your second season?
Yeah, I mean, I try to hang out with them throughout the day, talk to them a lot, make them feel comfortable, and I'll ask them to hang out outside. Right now we're playing some video games together just to get along, and it's going pretty well, I'd say.
What's the game of choice for you guys?
Minecraft right now.
Minecraft? All right, who's the best on the team? Who's been stealing the show?
Janvaria for sure. That guy's a sweat.
Gotcha. All right, well, good stuff there, Owen. Thanks so much for chatting. Really appreciate it.
Of course,
And
anytime.
we'll get to talk with one of your fellow goaltenders, Anthony Sciere, coming up next year. Rebels fans, continuing the goaltender theme this week, joined alongside one of the newest members of the Philadelphia Rebels in goaltender Anthony Sciere. Anthony, thanks so much for coming on. Glad to have
thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and excited to have you not just on the show, but joining the Rebels over these last couple weeks or so. What was it like for you? Take us through that transition of making the jump to the NAHL.
It was definitely a big jump. I started the year up in Youngstown. Wasn't playing very much, so I came here. I was excited for the opportunity. I love the guys, love the area. Everything's going really well so far, so I'm really enjoying it here.
Obviously great to hear, of course. What's been the biggest difference that you've noticed since coming to Philadelphia and being able to get into some more game action?
Just kind of like more preparation, being more prepared throughout the week. Still obviously working as hard, but definitely just more preparation, making sure I need to do what I need to do so I can play good for the games in the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked with Owen as well about obviously preparation so important for goaltenders, and you've been obviously working with him and Bo Lane in that 3 goaltender rotation. What's that been like for you coming into that kind of unique setup?
I do like it. It's good because I can see guys who are older than me who've been in this league, been in higher leagues. Like, it's a really great opportunity to watch them play, and develop from watching them. And then hopefully they can learn a little bit from me as well.
I know obviously you've only been with the team for about a month or so now. You've only gotten into a couple of games, but have you felt the confidence level increasing as you've gotten more game action under your belt?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely getting more with the guys, kind of starting to fit in more. Mm-hmm. So definitely an adjustment coming here, but I'm enjoying it, and it's getting a lot easier. My confidence, I feel like, is going up through practices. So. Yeah.
Have you been part of the Minecraft crew with Owen?
I'm not. I'm not a big fan of Minecraft, so.
To be honest, I'm not either. So yeah. we'll find our own game.
Yeah, we'll find our own game. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're excited to continue to learn more about you, Anthony. Continue to watch you play more over the rest of this season. Great to have you in Philadelphia, and thanks so much for coming on this week.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the goalie portion of the show, but we'll come right back with head coach Justin Hale and preview this weekend's upcoming series with the Maine Nordiques. All right, Rebels fans, back here with head coach Justin Hale, getting ready to preview this weekend's series against the Maine Nordiques here at Hollydale Ice Arena. Obviously, of course, good to be back, I'm sure, for you guys here on home ice. This Maine team enters this series having lost 4 in a row. They were off to a very good start this season, but obviously they've hit a bit of a cold patch. What have you seen from them in your film sessions as to why they've kind of hit the skids a little bit these last couple weekends?
I think they're a good team. At this point in the year, you're going to go through some ups and downs. So I can't say that it points to there's one major issue for them. I think at the end of the day, we kind of touched on it earlier, New Hampshire is a pretty hot team right now. So, they have a lot of skill. They've acquired and put together a competitive roster with a lot of returning players, with guys that have been in the league and have a history of being able to produce. They have their goalie coming back. They have, again, they're a well-constructed roster, so we're going to have our work cut out for ourselves, and we have to be ready, as we've talked about, in the first period to set the tone and show up on time and put forth a good game, a good weekend, and hopefully come away with points.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned the goaltender, Matthew Delarusso, is one of the top save percentages in the NAHL this year. He's been great for them all season long. When you're going up against that goaltender who is going to be probably at the top of his game and one of the more talented goalies in the league, does that at all change the game plan for your team and what you try to do, or is it just business as usual and trying to keep a positive mentality knowing he's probably going to make some really big saves?
We'll pre-scout it, but at the end of the day, we still have to execute our offensive principles. We still have to, be a willing shooter if you're on a 2-on-1 or if you have a lane to the net. We still have to harp on our normal principles of making sure guys are getting into hard areas of the ice. So I think there's a little bit of awareness of what is he doing, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, but it always comes back to looking in the mirror, and we have to stay true to how we want to play and improve upon those things.
Yeah, and offensively, this Maine team, as you mentioned, has a lot of talent as well, too. They've got 2 guys in the top 10 and scoring, 3 overall in the top 20. What do you do to make sure you contain some of those top players for the Nordiques and prevent them from kind of being game breakers this weekend?
one is having awareness when they're on the ice.
Yeah.
You have to know who they are. You have to know what numbers they are. You have to know, where they're at in the rotation. Some of that's on us as coaches, but it's still the players, having that knowledge too. And then, just like any other time, you want to take away time and space from good players.
Yeah.
If you give good players time and space, that's where they can be creative and make things happen. So as long as we're skating, competing, and taking away that time and space, that hopefully should work in our favor.
Yeah, we talked a little bit of home road splits earlier in the show as well too. How important is it having home ice against a team like that, where you've got last change and you can shift the matchups to your favor in most situations?
Yeah, it's always important. Any chance that you can kind of get the match or the pair that you want, you try and do it where you can. But as we've talked about in previous shows, being able to be in your own bed and your own routine is always beneficial. So we're excited.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to having that game day routine back in place this weekend, and some special events happening as well. Friday's game features a toy drive. Fans who bring a toy to Hollydale Ice Arena will receive free admission to the Rebels game and also be able to support those in need this holiday season. And then Saturday is one of the meet and greet games for the Rebels this season. You can meet with several Rebels players after the game and get a chance to see what makes them so special, of course. Should be a great series this weekend against Maine. Coach Hale, thanks again for joining us, as well as Owen Crudale and Anthony Sciere. I'm Andrew McGuinness. Have a good night and go Rebels.